Welcome to another episode of The Arena, a show about finance, real estate, and the boots on the ground making it happen every day. Today on the show, I have Jim Stoffey. Welcome, Jim.
Great to be here.
So, Jim, just want to talk to you about your journey, kind of introduce yourself. A lot of people are watching this going, why the hell should I even listen to a thing this guy says? So let's talk about how long you've been here, where'd you come from, what is it you do?
Yeah, so I've been in the business for almost 10 years now. So I started when I was 22, and I was the youngest guy in the room then. Now we have, agents that I worked with that were fresh out of high school.
You still look fantastic.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So I started as an agent. I ended up meeting John Cohen, top agent in the area here. We hit it off. He bugged me to join his team. I did. That was a great decision for me. And we worked together at KW Cherry Hill. That's where I started my career. We moved to Berkshire for about a year. And then I left Berkshire to become a productivity coach at KW Moorestown. So if you don't know, the business, most brokerages have some type of support system, mentorship program when you get started in real estate. KW's has turned into what's called productivity coaching programs. And I had always wanted to do something like that. I had a mentor when I started who really just said, go out and get a contract and bring me a contract when you get it. And I loved him. I'm still very close with him. It's a lot more than that now. And so when we started there at Moorestown, when I started there, I kind of came into a world where there wasn't much there or going on as far as support for agents within our office. And it wasn't any fault of the office or anything like that. And Keller Williams, by the way, is a great place to start even without those programs just because of their education. But we started with nothing, and we built a program that we had about 120 to 140 agents in, and closed over 500 transactions with that coaching program in the 3 years that I was there, and really started with nothing there. With the help of our team leaders there and the brokerage, and transitioned out of that recently into running my own team, starting our own team called Community Ave, which is traditional sales team, although we don't follow the typical model. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that.
Man, I was going to say, you kind of covered it all.
Okay.
I think we're done. We're done here.
Good, cool, good talk.
So 10 years you've been doing this. How long were you initially an agent, and then how long were you a coach?
Yeah, so I was an agent for, maybe 6-7 years, and then a coach for just over three, maybe 3.5 years.
Now, what I found really interesting, and I didn't know this, is when you first started, you knew nobody in this area.
Yeah, so I like to say I was the dumbest person to get into real estate. When I moved here, I didn't know a soul. I had no money, nothing, no knowledge. Somebody on bigger pockets.
Where'd you grow up, by the way?
In Montgomery County, PA.
Okay.
I moved here for my girlfriend at the time, now wife. So I had to, basically start from zero and learn how to figure this out. I was not, when I got into real estate, it was because of somebody on Bigger Pockets who told me that I need to get my license because I didn't have any value to offer anybody.
That's right.
Bigger Pockets has a podcast, but also it's like an investment, real estate investment forum and website. It's a great place to start, if you are trying to get into that space.
Now, this is 10 years ago. Yeah, I'm sure that was right after the crash. People are just starting to get back into things.
Yeah. And I, coming into this business as a younger, hungry agent, you do have a lot more to offer than you might think. If you're willing to put in the time to learn and ask questions, and people who have knowledge will want to share it with you naturally. So, I have a lot of mentors that helped me get started, get into production and join the team and help John grow that team. And we're still, very close to this day.
Yeah. So what I thought was also interesting of your journey and kind of what you're doing now is there seems to be a lot of talk around support, right? And how is it that this brokerage, again, we're talking about real estate agents and this market in general, it's a tough market. So they're trying to navigate it, and they're looking, who's going to support me? Who's going to guide me through? Now, you made a funny comment. You can learn all that on YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that, it might sound strange to hear me say that on our coaching calls. I would honestly say, you don't need me to be in the top 1% of agents in this country. The information is out there. The agents that are going to find success are the ones that are hungry for it and are willing to work for it. Now, we can help get you there a lot faster. And by the way, when you get to a deal, you're going to need us. But getting to a deal, learning how to be a sales agent, which is really what your role is in this business, you need to look inward first, and we can give you all, as because of the things that, your team has helped us with as well. We can give you all the tools and the systems and the models. We can lead you to the pond, but we can't force you to drink. That's got to be on you.
Yeah. And also being real with yourself and knowing, well, what kind of a person are you? And there's no wrong answer, but are you a hunter or are you a cook? And this is something that the way I run my company and my team, the way you're running yours. If you're a hunter, and we laughed and we talked about how if you're someone that can go out, whether it's a grocery store, whether you're just picking up the phone, you're calling people, and you can get people to have really great, meaningful conversations with you, that want to work with you, that like you, that want to, that trust you in that capacity, well, then where should the majority of your focus be?
Yeah, I mean, the non-negotiables are the face-to-face and the voice-to-voice. I mean, that's just not going to go away. If you are having conversations with people about real estate, you will find business. It will happen. You will not be able to avoid it. And a lot of times that's scary for an agent because they're scared of getting to that, that first or second or third transaction. So we can leverage out, pretty much everything else for you. And that's what you see top sales associates and teams do, is that they are focusing on what matters most. You want to focus on the top 20% that drives the 80% and that drives the revenue for you. And that is sales and having conversations with people about real estate.
Well, and now with you specifically, you have now hundreds of transactions under your belt as a coach, hundreds under your belt as an individual agent. You kind of have both sides here. So now, what was the reason of coming together, getting out of coaching and now focusing all that knowledge on building your own team?
Yeah, I mean, I learned, really running the coaching program was like running a large sales team. And I like to think that our team now, Community Ave, is the best of both worlds. I saw what agents struggled with on the day-to-day basis. I got to see agents succeed. I got to see agents, not succeed. It taught me so much. I learned so much from, being in that position and working with those agents. So the purpose of our team is really what I see as, maybe a newer model in this industry where large teams are operating in a similar fashion to a brokerage, or are maybe what an agent expects from their brokerage. Really, they are have the expectations that they would get from a team or being on a team.
Well, that's interesting. So again, we're talking agents here. The big thing now is I'm not loving where I'm at. I'm feeling not supported, or there's not enough information or opportunity. So I'm going to go to another brokerage.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it becomes another brokerage. So what do you say to someone that might be in that situation where they feel like that's going to solve the problem?
The first place an agent will look when they're struggling is at their broker so often. And I understand, and I think switching brokerages, teams, companies for the right reasons can be a great move for your business. However, I think agents need to learn to look inward first, because really this does come down to you more than it comes down to anything else. And so when I sit with an agent, and when I was in the coaching program, doing this and meeting with a lot of agents that were not only, just new, sometimes they're transferring from other brokerages, the things that I would coach to are, I'm listening in these conversations to why are you switching brokerages, moving teams or companies? And if the answer is all that it is casting blame on the brokerage, the team, the whatever it is, that's a red flag for me. That's something that we need to address, because you need to look, again, you just need to look internal first.
Little ownership, extreme ownership,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, the agents who are willing to pick up the phone or do the work or do open houses and call, they will do business.
Well, let's also be real. If you do the work and now you're successful and you have your database and your sphere and you're generating business, if you do eventually want to move, that negotiation is going to go a lot better.
You're going to understand what you want from your brokerage or your team.
Yeah.
But when you're brand new, or you just don't know what you don't know, and that's a thing I see agents make mistakes all the time by joining a team for the wrong reasons, because they don't even know what they want out of a team. They don't know you have to look at yourself as an agent and as a person and see, what are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? Let me find a team that matches that. When I joined John's team, when I got into the business, my biggest weakness was that I had no database. I didn't know a soul here. John has a huge database, great guy, involved in the community. Yeah. And it was very helpful in that way, and to learn the community. And so I think you need to look internally first and see, we all have strengths and weaknesses, and every team is different. Every model is different.
Now, what are you doing specifically on your team that you feel like is going to help agents, and also specifically, what kind of agent would you be looking for?
Yeah, I know that, the biggest challenge for agents is just doing the activities. It's staying in the database, adding value to the people that you know, like, and trust, or getting people that don't know, like, and trust you to know, like, and trust you. Because we know that people, the consumer, they're only going to do business with people that they like and that they trust. And so our team's focus is really getting into our database at a high level, offering value to all of our collective people in our database, and doing as much of that for the agent as possible so that you as an agent can go out and do what actually matters, which is sell homes.
So let's talk about the word database. Could also be database. So either or, right? Whatever floats your boat. When you're talking about a database, I think this is the word of the last 2 years, 3 years, because you don't have a lot of new people coming into your life going, I can't wait to buy and sell. And it's just not that market.
Right.
So now all of a sudden you have to go back to your sphere, your past clients, just maybe anybody that you've spoken to over the past, really your entire career.
Yeah.
So what are your suggestions, and what do you teach? How do you coach your agents on working your database, and what's so important there?
Yeah, first and foremost, it's consistency. You have to be consistently in front of your people. I mean, as well as I do, we all have TikTok brain now. There's so much, you're getting hit with so much stuff on a daily basis.
Maybe not for long.
Maybe not for long. You're right. Yeah. Well, it might be a good thing for us then. Who knows?
Well, at the time of taping this, in about a week, it might be out of here.
We'll
I
see.
don't think it will.
Yeah, either. But yeah, so you have to be consistent with it, and that is such a hard thing to do as an agent. There's nobody forcing you to get out of bed in the morning and show up to your job. Lots of agents come into this business, like myself, coming from some other type of job where if you don't show up, you're fired. You are not fired in real estate if you don't show up and send an email, a text or call your past client or somebody that you know.
Not a lot of accountability.
Not a lot of accountability, and so that's what agents need help with. And what to say, how to say it, who to say it to. Those are the things that I know that we do really well. We're looking at market. I'm a nerd when it comes to market statistics and trends and things like that. So I love to look at the data and come up with a message that will be meaningful to the end person who's going to see it. I don't think it's that helpful, not that it's a bad thing, but for an agent to record a video or send out a text that says, hey, rates are 6.5% today, they went down by 0.25%. That is not helpful to somebody who wants to move. What might be more helpful is, let's go and look at a house that we know that they might like, because we had a conversation with them. We know they're looking to move in the next 6 months. They've been looking at homes in an area. Let's run the payment at 7% interest, and let's run it again at 6.5% interest, and let them know that, hey, that same house you liked 2 months ago, prices haven't really changed. Rates came down a little bit. It'll now be $200 a month cheaper for you to live there. Is that something that's compelling enough for you to want to have a conversation about this? So from the team perspective and the agent perspective, we are coming up with those types of messages for our agents to be able to communicate with their databases, so that you can just do it as the agent. You can reach out to your people who need to hear that. And those are the things that get the consumer, in a world where there is just so much misinformation and confusion, to, want to make some type of next step in this process.
Well, and that's really what it's about. It's about conversations and education. And I think right now, everyone wants to do their own research. That seems to be everything. We do a lot of market research, and we want to know, what do consumers want? And when you're diving into the world of real estate, whether you're buying or selling or renting, you want to do your own research. Nobody's Googling, what real estate agent should I talk to right now to figure this out?
Right.
That's kind of later down the journey. Or what lender can I call right now? Now, some people do, but they start out just looking towards technology and search sites and things like that. What's your advice on the research? If you are someone that want to get into buying or selling, how do you start that research, and what should you look out for?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is, it's funny because the consumer does exactly what I do. I'm forcing my nephew to get into RC cars, and you can bet it was a daily activity for me to go on YouTube and watch different RC car review videos. We're doing the same thing when we're looking, to move. We're obsessing with information online that might not be super hyper local or relevant to us. And I think
Google University.
Google University. The challenge with real estate is that that process starts a lot sooner than most people realize. I would say that if somebody reached out to me and said they're looking to move 12 months from now, well, the time to start that process is now. It's going to look different than if you said, Jim, I need to be out of my house in 2 weeks. That's going to be we're going to have a different conversation. But I think a lot of people, they wait too long to start, asking questions or having conversations about this and seeing what options are out there.
It's never too early.
It's never too early.
Well, and we were also speaking, a lot of people don't realize once you dive in and you know your numbers and you're doing your research, all of a sudden it might be more attainable than you think, sooner than you think.
Yeah.
There might be things that we can do. You were talking about when people sell their home, and right now people are sitting on average, speaking of statistics, an average of $300,000 on average
in equity.
In equity. What do you do with that money? What kind of conversation are you having with people when they're selling and buying, and also specifically people that might be sitting on a real low rate on their current home and now frustrated and scared about getting into another house?
Yeah, I mean, this brings up, you have two sides of this that are very important. This conversation brings up how important it is to work with an agent who knows how to handle these types of questions and situations, because you're not taught this in real estate school. You need to know, as an agent, the best thing that we can do is to put ourselves in the consumer's shoes, and we know the answers that we can provide you. You don't know what you don't know. The same thing is true for somebody who's looking to start the moving process. You don't even know what questions to ask, because you're sitting on this rate, you want to move, you're looking at houses online on Zillow, and you don't even know where to start. But what I can tell you that has been helpful for what we are doing, this is a real world example from within our databases. This is just so common that somebody owns a home. It's maybe their starter home, like we were talking about earlier. It's their starter home. They've been there for a few years. A few years has turned into 5 or 6 or 7 years now. They just can't make it work anymore. But you don't think that you can make that move because you have a couple problems. The first one being that you need to sell your house to buy the next one. And the second one being you think that rates are too high, your payments are going to be too high. So what we've done to help our clients in these situations is we're looking at the house that you live in now, and we're giving you a very solid estimate for what you're going to walk away with from the sale of that house. Not what it's even going to sell for. What is the check in your hand going to be when you walk away from that settlement table? We are taking that check and we are looking at properties that you might want to buy today, applying that check towards it and any other money you want to use. And then we can tell you what your payment will ultimately be on this new home that you want to buy.
Yeah. So there's two sides of the coin here. On one side, you're sitting on a house and a mortgage with a super low rate. You won, okay? On the other side, people are thinking, well, great, I won, I have this equity, but what do I do with that new house that the rate's going to be so much higher?
Yeah.
Isn't that going to be terrible for my situation? And you got to look at, well, you also won with that equity. You just made your payments on time, and all of a sudden your house is worth X number more than when you bought for it. Now let's leverage that.
People are often surprised at what the ultimate end payment is on the house that they want to buy. And something that I've said and come to learn is sometimes you just want to get to the no faster. So if you are somebody who thinks they might want to move, well, let me tell you that information. And maybe you learn that the payment on your next house is going to be $3,500 a month. And that means, you know what, this is super helpful, but I'm not ready for that payment right now. That's a win-win for me. That helped you out. Now you know what it's going to be ultimately when you want to do this, and we can update you on that, from time to time, we can update you on that. What we find is that eventually then you're ready for that payment or whatever the situation might be, or it might change, and it works out for you.
Well, and this is where working with professionals and building a team around you benefits. So let's take your scenario and go a little deeper. So you're going to make $200,000 on your home when you sell it. You want to buy a new property. You're going to apply a certain amount of that towards the down payment and buying down that mortgage. Is your rate going to be a little higher? Yeah, but your loan amount's going to be lower than you probably think. So your payment might not be as high as you think it is. The other part of that is, all right, you're at a 3% interest rate on your mortgage debt, but what about all your other debt?
Right.
Take all of your debt, credit cards, student loans, car payments. Well, what interest rate do you have on all of those? let's blend them all together. Your blended rate, that's what it's called. So let's say all that money you're making, not only you're going to have some of that go to the down payment, but what if you pay off part or all of that debt? Now those payments that you're making every single month, where you're thinking, wow, there's no way I could afford a mortgage payment higher than where I am now. But then you're not thinking about all the other debt you're paying on.
Right. You're eliminating these other payments.
So eliminate it. And now you could be in a situation where, yes, your mortgage rate and payment go up, but now in the end, you're actually saving money every month because you don't have to pay this other debt.
Yeah, I mean, we've had, closings where we walk out of those closings that this is exactly what's happening. You have somebody that eliminated 5 or 6 monthly payments, and now they just have one, larger mortgage payment. But in reality, it's actually less than all of the cumulative totals of those other payments that they were making.
And by the way, this is the whole concept of a cash out refinance. And are we refinancing people right now for a lower rate? No, we're refinancing people to consolidate debt. That's mostly what we're doing. So if someone comes to me and they want to buy a house in a year and a half, they might come to us now, refinance the mortgage, pay off the debt. Now it's going to allow them to save more money, maybe rebuild their credit. Maybe the debt is keeping their credit score down.
Yeah.
So there's a lot you can do with this equity, basically what we're getting at.
I mean, this is exactly why you need to start this process for so many people sooner than you think. And being a real estate agent, it's being a real estate professional now. It may not have been a few years ago when rates were 2 or 3%, and it was just easier maybe in a lot of ways. But now you really are, this is the value that as a real estate professional you need to add to your database. You should be letting people that know what this situation is going to look like for them in the event they want to make a move.
So talking about research, because that's what all of this is.
Yeah.
So what is it about you? I know that recently you had rolled out new technology. Well, why would you have your own technology? Why not just rely on the search sites and the apps that are available now?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, when you are out on Zillow or Realtor.com or any of those types of websites, I think what people don't realize is those sites make money in some ways by selling you disinformation. Like, have you ever talked to somebody who found a property on Zillow and they're not understanding why they can see this property? They reached out, they can't show it. Why is it not available? What's going on?
Oh yeah.
That's because how Zillow makes their money is by you clicking on something to get information. So Zillow is incentivized to display properties in a way that might not be available, as an example.
Pre-foreclosure.
The pre-foreclosure. My house is an example of that, that we bought our house in foreclosure and it's listed on Zillow as a pre-foreclosure for years afterwards because Zillow wants people to click on it thinking that they can get information
and
they can sell that info.
Jim's such a deadbeat.
Right. He
hasn't
made a single payment. Yeah, but that's a good example. And, when you work with, us, or even if you're just starting your search and you're not looking for the next year or so, you can use our app and your data is protected in that way. And that way you at least know that what you're looking at is it's not being sold to somebody that you don't know.
So you have your own app. That's interesting. So someone could download that. And then what's the benefit of having an app that's directly through you?
I mean, you can know that when you're looking at information on there, no matter what you click on, it's not going to go anywhere other than to your agent that you already know, like, and trust. It's not going to be sold to some random person. The incentive there is for, us to help you find your next home. You can communicate with us there.
Secure.
Yeah, more safe and secure. It's easier. And I think you find when you are working with your agent and you start to get those emails with property alerts and stuff like that, it's going to take you right to that app anyway. And it kind of keeps it all together in one place.
That's really good to know. And then, of course, expanding their searches. This is something that we've noticed where before, this is where I feel agents like you, being the boots on the ground, this is something you're going to have to your advantage over any Zillow or national website or app or whatever it is. And that is, the towns, the neighborhoods. Before you got into real estate, did you even know some of these neighborhoods existed?
No.
And so I would say that was one of the things that I was most surprised about. Where I grew up, the town I live in now, I grew up 2 towns over. Well, I've driven through this town a million times. I never knew the neighborhood I live in now even existed. So it's one of those things where you might see a house listed for sale online,
right?
But you don't know the feel of the neighborhood and the opportunity and would it be a good fit for me until you speak to someone that's physically there all the time and has had buyers, sellers, and they could tell you that research and kind of kind of help your learning curve a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't realize that if you're using something like Zillow still, and you want to schedule a showing somewhere, that agent who ultimately gets your information is going to be, they're going to tell you what they need to tell you in a lot of cases, not all, in order to get you at the door there. And so you might be meeting up with an agent from a different part of the state, another state you don't know, who might not know the area at all. And you're just
they'll make it seem like
they absolutely will. Yeah.
Well, that's also when people are using your app, for example, and they're basically testing you out. It's a test drive. So it's them asking you questions, the harder questions, seeing what your knowledge is. And then look, here's the best part about what any of us do. No one has to do anything. No one has to use us.
Yeah.
You don't have to use us as a lender or use you as an agent. They can test drive us out. And if we're a good fit and knowledgeable and they feel we're going to benefit them with the process, then we'll work together. It's all action-based, performance-based.
At the end of the day, we're going to do what our clients want to do, but it does benefit both of us in that, it allows us to go back and look at everything that you've looked at in the past that you favorited or whatever, and get updates on those properties and more information, whatever the case may be, so that later on it's all in one place and ready to go. It just helps us, essentially make the process easier for you when you're ready to go.
So it's a tough market. We were hoping rates would drop dramatically. That hasn't happened. What would you say to anyone that's looking to make a move now? Let's just talk about someone that doesn't own a home, because people that own a home and they're sitting on a ton of equity, they're in the driver's seat more or less. If they want to sell, they have that money, they'll roll it in. But someone that just has their savings, and they're worried because they don't want to buy a house, put that savings into that house, and then they find out 3 years from now that house is now declined in value and that money is gone.
Sure. I think if you don't own a home now, one of the things that people don't realize that in this competitive market for the lenders, because rates have gone up, it's created this environment where lenders are offering really good programs, really solid options where they didn't need to before. You see this more than me, but look at the first-time buyers grant. These programs didn't exist, and they weren't utilized so much.
They weren't that good.
And now they weren't. But now we're using tools that have always existed that weren't used as much before because there's a need for it. And so you need to work with somebody that knows what, rate buy downs are or
just the New Jersey, for example, is giving up to $22,000 away. Pennsylvania could be even more than that. County to county, there's money to be had. So, there's definitely a lot of help. But I think if they're worried about their house depreciating, and I think everyone keeps talking, it's the media, it's people trying to sell clicks, or they're trying to sell articles, and they keep talking about bubbles. They keep talking about, potential downside to buying a house. What really, you see it, you're doing it every day. What's your advice?
It's funny, when I got into this business, I remember being in one of the very first sales meetings, and it was, I remember somebody saying, it's an election year, there's going to be a downturn in them. And I'm like, oh my God, I just got into this business. You're telling me we're going into a downturn? If I would have sat on the sidelines then and not bought, I'd still be waiting for there to be this, big correction. And there certainly may be. I don't have a crystal ball. If somebody's telling you that something's going to happen and they're telling you rates are going to go up, rates are going to go down, values are going to go up, they're going to go down, they're going to be wrong in some way. I'm not going to sit there and do that. You buy real estate and you wait.
I follow a lot of great people, finance people. And the one guy always talks about the S&P 500. Right. And he's basically saying you don't really need a fancy financial advisor or any of that. Just invest dollar cost average invest consistently in what you can afford. And eventually it will be worth more, even if you have a couple down years. In real estate, I posted the other day at It's Matt Boyce, if you want to, see it. I posted a shot of the country, and they did the research on all the areas of the country, county to county, on what areas appreciated, what depreciated. And
I saw this. Yeah, actually, we just talked about this at our team meeting too. But yeah,
and there are areas. There are areas in Florida, Texas, out west, and these are areas that, yes, last year they depreciated, but overall, in the past 5-10 years, they're way up.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
the example that I would give is it's like you walked into a casino and you're up $1,000 and then you lost 200 and you leave the casino. Did you win or did you lose at the casino that day?
I love that.
You still walked away up $800, and that's actually not the case in our local market right now at all.
Right. And then that's what, like, Manhattan is lost 20% of value last year, but they're up hundreds of percent,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
In our area, it really does come down to supply and demand. And there's not a ton of new construction that can happen in the area, or at least in the towns and areas people want to be in. You can't go into a Haddonfield, a Moorestown, and knock everything down, or go to fields.
Right.
Like, what fields?
Yeah.
So I think that supply and demand still play, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're worried about buying, and I understand that. I mean, I do. If you're renting right now, or being a first-time home buyer, I mean, I can't sugarcoat it. It is more challenging now than it has been in the past, right? It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. I mean, what's not going to change if you bought a place right now? Your mortgage rates and your mortgage payment is not going to change. If you're renting a place right now, I see rents they're going up as well. If your rent is $2,500 a month and mortgage rates go down by 1% or 2% next year, and your landlord refinances their mortgage, are they going to refinance on your rent for you?
No,
No, they're not. So I think you need to buy for the right reasons. And if your reason for buying is because you're betting on your home value going up or down in the next 12 months, real estate is a long-term game. It's not a short-term game.
Let's talk about reasons for buying, because I think that a lot of people with so much online, TikTok and social, talking about house hacking, I think people lose sight of what's their real goal here. If you have a family, if you're looking for space, school systems, area, a certain location, then the investment side of that maybe is further along in the goals there, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But if you're single, you can live in a small space. If you have all the time in the world and your main priority really is that investment side, well, isn't that a different conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish we would see more people take advantage of buying a duplex, a triplex, a quadruplex, and renting the other units out. I mean, it's such a great way to get into this, into owning a home and supplementing your mortgage payment.
Or even the ugly house on the street, little sweat equity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think, the HGTV culture is, I want a house that's so pretty, that looks awesome, has all the sizzle features, the kitchen, the island. They want all that work done for them. And of course, they don't want to pay a lot of money for it.
Right.
But in the end, I always talk about when I bought my first place, I just wanted it to be this big townhouse, 3-bedroom, all the space, way more space than I needed.
Yeah.
And then that payment ended up killing me. And then when there was a downturn in the market and I wasn't making as much, then I had no help.
Right.
But buying a duplex, a triplex, now all of a sudden you're hedging your bet a little bit. Something happens, you have other income coming in, even if you don't have your job supplying that.
And it's not for everyone, but it sparks the conversation, and that's what this is about.
All right, Jim. So if you are first an agent, you're someone that, doesn't necessarily have to be new, just someone that in the business just wants some more value, support, coaching, accountability, someone that just wants to have a conversation. What's the first step that you would take, and how to even get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, to get in touch with me is easy. You look up Community Ave on Instagram. We're there. My personal account's there as well. And just reach out. It's worth a conversation, and not just with me, with any other team lead that you think, I always say go for somebody you look up to, look at their content, look what they're posting, look what they're about, where are they at, and set up a meeting with them.
Nice. Now, if you are someone looking to buy and sell, you could be 12, 24 months out. You could be a long time. You just want to have that first conversation. What is the first step for you? And how do you go around? What's your process with a new client?
Yeah, it's having a meeting and asking questions. I mean, we just want to ask questions. It's always going into, when I go into an appointment with a client, it is all about just me trying to get an understanding of what do you think the challenges are going to be, and coming up with a game plan for you. We are having more appointments now than we ever have that are very early on, and it's a really good thing. It helps us to know when is the action actually going to happen? When are you actually going to make a move? What are the things that need to happen for you in order for this to make sense for you to make a move? We can't really understand what that looks like until we have a Zoom call or a meeting at your house so we can give you a value update or whatever the case may be. So whether it's us or another team, your first step is just going to be to just reach out to a reputable agent and just say, look, I have some questions. I don't even know what to ask. And we can kind of guide you through that conversation.
And that value, by the way, very arbitrary. If you don't talk to the right person, you could be either overinflated or undervaluing your house significantly, right?
Yeah, Zillow is a bit, I say when we go to an appointment, it's very hard. I just was helping Rachel on our team this morning. She has a listing appointment tomorrow with somebody who's looking to sell, and she hasn't been inside their house. You can't. It's very hard to come up with a value without coming inside your house and putting ourselves in the shoes of our buyers who, we know what they're looking for. So the question that I would ask a seller is, if they bring up a Zestimate or something like that, is when did somebody from Zillow come over to your house? And of course it's a little cliche, but the answer is, they haven't. And so it's hard to do that.
Right. And then again, you're the boots on the ground. You know what your buyers and the buyers out there want.
Yeah.
And if they walk in and everything's pink and yellow and the whole house needs to be gutted, or even, what I find too is people have done nice work, but they did it 10 years ago.
Yes.
And in their mind, it's brand new.
Well, and then you have somebody like Billy come over and do the photography and the videography, and, it looks a lot better on the internet than it does in person. And unless you were in there and showed that home, you don't understand these nuances that go into actually coming up with the value on a home. Yeah.
And I love, again, HGTV. People walk in, they go, we'll just knock that wall down. We'll just do that. We'll just do all these major items. And then it's like, okay, well, that's going to be 30 grand.
Yeah.
That's going to be 20 grand. That's good. Do you have that money available? And then no, you probably don't, or that's all your reserve.
Yeah.
So yeah, just knowing where to price it at. I think that I've worked with so many amazing agents, and it's people like you that have the experience and just are taking the approach of educating, and that's where it's at. And then let the buyer and the seller make the decision.
I say that all the time. We don't make any decisions for our clients. And I'll say that to a client. I'm not making a decision for you. I'm going to guide and advise you and give you what I think, in my professional opinion, is the best decision for you to make. But it's not my money. It's not my house. It's not my life. It's yours. So you don't want your agent making decisions for you. That's a line you don't want to cross.
Love it. That's all bonus footage right there, right at the end there. Well, of course, if you want to get a hold of Jim, go ahead and contact him. You can find him on Instagram, and phone number?
267-664-6943.
Love
Philly
it.
guy.
Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.
Until next time.